Syria, a land steeped in history. For millennia, its fertile plains and bustling cities have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. From the ancient Mesopotamians to the Romans, from the Byzantines to the Ottomans, Syria has stood at the crossroads of civilizations. Its people, a vibrant tapestry of cultures and faiths, have contributed immeasurably to the world's heritage. Damascus, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities, once pulsed with the energy of trade and scholarship. Aleppo's ancient souk, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, echoed with the sounds of artisans and merchants. The echoes of history whispered in every corner, a testament to Syria's enduring spirit. This rich cultural legacy, however, has been tragically overshadowed by decades of conflict and oppression. The story of Syria's recent past is one of unimaginable suffering, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the human cost of tyranny. Yet, even amidst the ruins, the spirit of the Syrian people remains unbroken, a testament to their resilience and their enduring hope for a brighter future. The world watched in horror as a nation once celebrated for its beauty and cultural significance was torn apart by violence. The echoes of laughter in ancient marketplaces were replaced by the deafening roar of bombs. The vibrant tapestry of Syrian society was ripped apart by sectarian violence and political repression. Families were torn apart, forced to flee their homes in search of safety. The story of Syria's descent into chaos is a tragic tale of lost potential, a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked power and the urgent need for international cooperation in the face of humanitarian crises. It is a story that demands our attention, our empathy, and our unwavering commitment to justice and peace. In 1970, Hafez al-Assad seized power in a bloodless coup. Thus began a dynasty that would rule Syria with an iron fist for decades. His rule was marked by brutal repression, particularly against the Muslim Brotherhood. Upon Hafez's death, his son Bashar al-Assad assumed the presidency. Initially, Bashar offered hope for reform. However, this hope proved short-lived. Behind the veneer of reform, Bashar consolidated power, silencing dissent. The promise of a Syrian spring withered under authoritarian rule. Syria, once a beacon of hope, plunged into unimaginable suffering. The year 2011 marked a turning point in the Middle East. The Arab Spring swept across the region, toppling dictators in Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya. Inspired by their neighbors, Syrian citizens demanded an end to Assad rule. What began as peaceful protests quickly escalated into a brutal civil war.
The Assad regime responded with overwhelming force. Security forces opened fire on unarmed civilians. The regime's brutal crackdown shocked the world.
The year is 2024. For over a decade, the Syrian people have endured a brutal civil war, their once vibrant nation reduced to rubble and despair. The Assad regime, clinging desperately to power, has unleashed unimaginable horrors upon its own people, employing chemical weapons, barrel bombs, and systematic torture to crush any form of dissent. But even in the darkest of times, the human spirit yearns for freedom, and the embers of resistance, though flickering, have refused to be extinguished.
From the ashes of a shattered nation, a determined force of Syrian rebels, their ranks bolstered by ordinary citizens who have taken up arms, launch a final desperate offensive against the heart of the Assad regime, Damascus. The battle for the Syrian capital is fierce, a chaotic symphony of gunfire, explosions, and the anguished cries of the wounded. The rebels, their courage fueled by years of oppression and the dream of a free Syria, fight with the ferocity of men and women who have nothing left to lose.
The tide of the battle turns as key defections rock the Assad regime, its foundations crumbling under the weight of its own brutality. The world watches, holding its breath as news spreads like wildfire. After 24 years of iron-fisted rule, Bashar al-Assad has fled Damascus, seeking refuge in Moscow, leaving behind a legacy of death and destruction. The fall of Assad is met with a mix of jubilation and trepidation. In the streets of Damascus, rebel fighters, their faces etched with exhaustion and the scars of battle, celebrate their hard-won victory. The air thick with the smell of gunpowder and the echoes of freedom chants. But even amidst the euphoria, there is a sobering awareness of the challenges that lie ahead, the daunting task of rebuilding a nation shattered by years of conflict.
News of Assad's downfall reverberates across the globe. sending shockwaves through the corridors of power and igniting a flicker of hope in the hearts of millions who have watched the Syrian tragedy unfold from afar.
The international community, long paralyzed by political gridlock and competing interests, scrambles to respond to the rapidly changing situation. In Washington, Brussels, and other world capitals, diplomats engage in frantic consultations, their carefully crafted pronouncements tinged with a mix of cautious optimism and a healthy dose of skepticism.
The fall of Assad, while undoubtedly a turning point in the Syrian conflict, raises more questions than it answers. What will become of the fragmented opposition, now tasked with governing a nation ravaged by war?
Can the international community, so often divided by national interests, find common ground to support a peaceful transition to a post-Assad Syria? The road ahead is fraught with uncertainty, a perilous journey through the wreckage of a shattered nation.
Yet for the first time in years, there is a glimmer of hope, a sense that perhaps, just perhaps, the Syrian people might finally have a chance to rebuild their lives and forge a new destiny.
In the weeks that follow, a sense of cautious optimism begins to take root, albeit fragile and tempered by the knowledge that the road to peace will be long and arduous. The international community, spurred by a renewed sense of urgency, pledges billions of dollars in aid to help rebuild Syria's shattered infrastructure and provide humanitarian assistance to the millions in need.
While the echoes of celebration reverberate through the streets of liberated cities, a stark reality settles upon the war-torn landscape of Syria. The scars of conflict run deep, etched not only on the bullet-riddled buildings and rubble-strewn streets, but also on the souls of a people who have witnessed the depths of human cruelty.
The true cost of Assad's reign of terror is slowly being revealed, like a gruesome tapestry woven from the threads of untold suffering. Mass graves, silent testaments to the regime's brutality, are unearthed, yielding their grim secrets to a world still struggling to comprehend the magnitude of the atrocities committed.
The stories that emerge from the shadows are harrowing, tales of torture, starvation, and systematic oppression that defy belief. Hospitals, once beacons of hope and healing, are overwhelmed with the wounded, their corridors echoing with the cries of pain and the anguished whispers of loved ones lost.
Medical supplies are scarce, a stark reminder of the international community's failure to alleviate the suffering of the Syrian people. In the sprawling refugee camps that have become synonymous with the Syrian crisis, millions languish in a state of limbo, their lives on hold, their dreams deferred.
Families huddle in makeshift tents, their faces etched with exhaustion and the pain of displacement, their hearts heavy with the uncertainty of the future. For them, the fall of Assad is but a distant echo, a faint glimmer of hope in a sea of despair.
The fall of a tyrant unveils the true cost of oppression, a stark accounting of the human toll exacted by years of brutality. As Syrians emerge from the shadow of Assad's rule, they confront a landscape scarred by loss and suffering.
The streets of Damascus now bear witness to somber funeral marches, mourners' cries echoing through the shattered cityscape. Hospitals struggle to cope with the scale of human suffering. Doctors and nurses work tirelessly, their dedication a testament to humanity's enduring spirit.
The statistics fail to capture the true magnitude of the tragedy. Millions displaced, tens of thousands killed. Behind each number lies a human life, now reduced to a statistic.
The world watches, drawn to harrowing images, a father clutching his lifeless child, a mother weeping over rubble. Their faces etched with pain, a universal testament to the human cost of war.
The fall of Assad ends his reign of terror, but the echoes of his brutality will reverberate for generations. Amidst the rubble and the grief, a demand for justice begins to rise, a chorus of voices demanding accountability for the atrocities committed under Assad's rule. From the mass graves that yield their grim secrets to the survivors who bear the physical and psychological scars of torture, the evidence of systematic brutality is overwhelming, a stark indictment of a regime that waged war on its own people. The International Criminal Court faces mounting pressure to investigate the Syrian conflict. However, the path to justice is fraught with political obstacles and legal complexities. Justice delayed, it is often said, is justice denied. For the sake of the Syrian people, the world must not allow the perpetrators of these crimes to escape justice. The fall of Assad ushers in a new era of geopolitical uncertainty in the Middle East, a region already grappling with complex rivalries and shifting alliances.
Iran, a staunch ally of the Assad regime, sees its influence in the region threatened and vows to continue supporting its proxies in Syria, further fueling the flames of sectarian violence. Turkey, wary of Kurdish aspirations for autonomy along its southern border, launches military incursions into northern Syria, displacing Kurdish populations and further destabilizing the region.
Russia, having intervened militarily in 2015 to prop up the Assad regime, emerges as a major power broker, its military presence and diplomatic clout giving it significant leverage in shaping the future of Syria.
The Syrian people, caught in the crosshairs of these competing interests, find themselves pawns in a geopolitical chess game, their fate determined not by their own aspirations, but by the calculations of foreign powers. The dream of a free and democratic Syria, once so tantalizingly close, seems to slip further into the distance, replaced by the sobering reality of a country fractured by conflict, its future uncertain, its destiny shaped by forces beyond its control.
The complex web of alliances and rivalries that fueled the conflict remains tangled, with various factions vying for control of territory, resources, and influence. Extremist groups exploiting the chaos and instability seize the opportunity to regroup and rearm, their ideology of hatred and violence finding fertile ground among the disillusioned and the desperate. The fall of the Assad regime, while marking a significant turning point in the Syrian conflict, does not signal an immediate end to the violence that has ravaged the nation for over a decade. The ghosts of war linger, their presence felt in the shattered cityscape, the lingering trauma in the eyes of its people, and the emergence of new threats that cast a long shadow over Syria's uncertain future. The Israeli government, citing its right to self-defense, vows to prevent the transfer of advanced weaponry to Hezbollah, the Lebanese militant group allied with Iran, further inflaming regional tensions and adding another layer of complexity to the Syrian crisis. The specter of ISIS, though weakened, has not been entirely extinguished, its capacity for terror a chilling reminder of the fragility of peace. Israel, deeply concerned by the presence of Iranian-backed militias operating near its border with Syria, launches a series of targeted airstrikes against what it deems to be hostile targets.
In the aftermath of Assad's downfall, Syria finds itself not only physically devastated, but also deeply divided, the social fabric of the nation torn apart by years of sectarian violence and political repression. The task of rebuilding a unified and functioning state seems almost insurmountable, a daunting challenge compounded by the interference of external actors pursuing their own agendas.
The international community, long divided in its response to the Syrian crisis, faces renewed pressure to find common ground and support a political solution. The United Nations, its credibility tarnished by its perceived inaction in the face of mass atrocities, attempts to revive stalled peace talks, bringing together representatives from the Syrian government, the fragmented opposition, and key regional and international stakeholders.
However, the negotiations are fraught with difficulties, bogged down by mistrust, competing interests, and the lingering wounds of a conflict that has claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands and displaced millions more. The Syrian people, their voices often drowned out by the clamor of international diplomacy, watch with a mixture of hope and skepticism, their patience worn thin by years of broken promises and unfulfilled expectations.
The world watches, its gaze fixed on the diplomatic maneuvering and the fragile hope for a peaceful resolution. The stakes are high, not only for the future of Syria, but for the stability of the entire region. The outcome of the Syrian crisis will have far-reaching consequences, shaping the geopolitical landscape for years to come. The world cannot afford to turn away, for the fate of Syria is inextricably linked to the fate of humanity itself. Years after the fall of Assad, Syria stands at a crossroads, its future hanging in the balance. The guns have largely fallen silent, but the echoes of conflict still reverberate through the shattered landscape. The road to peace is long and arduous, paved with the rubble of shattered dreams.
The international community must not forget the plight of the Syrian people. Sustained support is crucial to ensuring that the fragile peace takes root.
Justice and accountability are essential for healing the wounds of the past. The Syrian people continue to strive for a better future.
Their courage and determination serve as an inspiration to us all. The story of Syria is far from over, It is a story of resilience, hope, and the enduring power of the human spirit.
The world must not turn away. We have a moral obligation to support their aspirations for a just and lasting peace. The future of Syria hangs in the balance, a stark reminder that the pursuit of peace is a journey, not a destination. The fall of the Assad regime triggers a surge of global attention and humanitarian aid for Syria. International organizations mobilize, providing unprecedented humanitarian assistance.
A wave of empathy washes over nations, moved by harrowing images of destruction. People from all walks of life donate generously to relief efforts.
Celebrities raise awareness and funds, amplifying the message of solidarity. The internet becomes a powerful tool for mobilizing support and coordinating aid.
Social media platforms flood with images and stories fostering shared humanity. Online fundraising campaigns go viral, channeling millions to aid organizations.
The international community unites, addressing the urgent needs of the Syrian people. The United Nations launches its largest humanitarian appeal, calling for billions in aid.
The world awakens to the magnitude of the Syrian tragedy, stirred by human suffering.
Amidst the ruins, hope takes root. Nurtured by the resilience of the Syrian people and international support, the monumental task of rebuilding Syria is embraced with determination.
The spirit of renewal flickers with a tenacious glow. Reconstruction begins in towns and cities, once bustling centers now reduced to rubble. Bulldozers clear a path for new beginnings.
Construction crews labor tirelessly to rebuild homes, schools, and hospitals. International aid organizations play a vital role in the rebuilding effort.
Engineers and architects design sustainable infrastructure for future generations. Doctors and nurses tend to the wounds of war. Teachers strive to restore normalcy to children's lives.
The determination to rebuild Syria is unwavering. Every rebuilt school, reopened hospital, and reunited family represents a victory over despair.
Even as the Syrian people embark on rebuilding, the weight of the past casts a long shadow, a reminder of the horrors endured.
The scars of conflict run deep, etched on the landscape and souls of those who lived through Syria's darkest chapter.
The physical scars are impossible to ignore, a reminder of the brutality unleashed upon the Syrian people. Cities and towns lie in ruins, their once vibrant streets now eerily silent. Homes, schools, hospitals, places of worship, all bear the marks of war. The stench of death lingers, a grim reminder of countless lives cut short.
But it is the invisible scars, the psychological wounds, that pose the greatest challenge to Syria's recovery. Post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues are widespread, affecting millions of Syrians.
The trauma of war manifests in countless ways, casting a long shadow over individual lives and hindering the collective healing process.
Addressing the invisible wounds of war is as crucial as rebuilding physical infrastructure. Mental health services are essential for helping individuals, families, and communities heal and rebuild their lives.
Providing access to counseling, therapy, and other forms of psychosocial support is not a luxury but a necessity.
A decade after the fall of Assad, Syria stands at a crossroads, its future uncertain. The guns have largely fallen silent, but the echoes of conflict still reverberate.
The nation, once a beacon of civilization, now bears the scars of war.
The international community must not turn away from Syria. Sustained support is essential to ensuring that the fragile peace takes hold.
Investment in reconstruction, education, and healthcare is crucial. The pursuit of justice remains a sensitive issue.
Some call for swift action against those responsible for war crimes.
Addressing the legacy of violence while fostering reconciliation is a challenge.
The future of Syria rests in the hands of its people. Their resilience offers a glimmer of hope amidst the ruins.
The international community must stand with them as partners and allies.
The road ahead will be long, but the pursuit of peace is a journey worth taking. Syria's story, like a symphony played on shattered instruments, is a symphony unfinished. The fall of Assad, a crescendo of hope after a movement of unbearable discord, marked not an end, but a transition, a shift in the melody, a change in the key.
The echoes of gunfire have faded, replaced by the quieter, yet no less insistent sounds of rebuilding, of healing, of a people daring to hope for a brighter future.
Yet, the melody is still fragile. often drowned out by the dissonance of political maneuvering, the rumble of distant conflicts, and the weight of unaddressed trauma.
The orchestra itself, the Syrian people, remains fragmented, their unity tested by years of hardship and mistrust. The conductor, the international community, often seems unsure of the score, its efforts at harmony sometimes discordant, its attention drawn to other, seemingly more pressing concertos.
But even in the face of these challenges, the music persists. In the classrooms where children, their eyes bright with a thirst for knowledge, learn to read and write, replacing the sounds of bombs with the turning of pages.
In the hospitals where doctors and nurses, their faces etched with compassion and fatigue, work tirelessly to heal both bodies and minds.
In the fields where farmers, their hands calloused but steady, plant seeds in the earth, nurturing life from a land scarred by conflict.
These are the quiet acts of defiance, the subtle notes of hope that weave their way through the symphony of Syria's present. They are a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity, the unwavering belief in the possibility of a brighter future, even amidst the ruins.
The world watches, as it always has, its gaze fixed on the stage of Syria. Some observe with a detached curiosity, their interest piqued by the drama but their hearts untouched by the tragedy.
Others turn away, overwhelmed by the scale of the suffering, unable or unwilling to confront the uncomfortable truths that Syria's story reveals about the human condition.
But there are those who choose to see, who refuse to look away from the pain, the resilience, the enduring hope that flickers amidst the ruins. They understand that Syria's story is not just a regional conflict, a distant tragedy confined to the pages of history books.
It is a mirror reflecting back to us our own capacity for both compassion and indifference, our own responsibility to act in the face of injustice and suffering.
The Fall of Assad was not the final act, it was merely the start of a new chapter, a chapter that demands our continued attention, our unwavering support, our commitment to ensuring that the sacrifices made were not in vain.
The road ahead for Syria will be long and arduous, but it is a journey we must take together. By supporting humanitarian aid organizations, by advocating for political solutions, by amplifying the voices of the Syrian people, we can play our part in writing a new symphony, one filled with the harmonies of peace, justice, and hope.
The spotlight remains on Syria, a stark reminder that the world is watching, not just as an audience, but as a participant in this unfolding drama. The choices we make today, the actions we take or fail to take, will determine the symphony's final movement.
Will it be a lament for a nation lost, or a triumphant crescendo of hope, a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity? The answer, as always, lies within us all.